Hey everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video we're going to be doing a vintage love letter inspired gel polish design, so I hope you all enjoy watching. To start off with, I'm going to be working on my Glamerliz practice hand. I have just popped a little timestamp down, so if you don't want to see me applying the gel polish you can skip straight ahead to that. But like I was saying, I'm working on my Glamerliz hand. This is the Elsa Painted hand. You can also get it in a posable version, but I've just got the classic version here. And I've already popped in some press-on tips just to use as the nail bed, and we're doing a gel on top design. And then I'm coming in with my gel polish. So this one is Kiki London. I think it's Au Vanilla. I will double check though and leave it in the description box below because I'm not 100% sure, because I actually tried out a couple of different nude colours before deciding which one I was going to go with, and I'm not in my nail room at the moment, so I'm not 100% sure which one I ended up settling for. But I'm just putting down my first thin coat of colour. If you were doing this on yourself or a client, you would do your prep and your base coat and then come in with your chosen colour. But like I said, just because I'm working on the Glamerliz, I'm jumping straight to applying the colour. Once I finish applying this first coat, I'm going to pop this in my LED lamp to cure for 30 seconds. Now sometimes with the creamier nude shades you can find that you might need 3 coats of colour to get that full-on even opaque coverage. It really does depend on the colour, I find. With this one I only ended up doing 2 thin coats, but I like to keep my coats of gel polish nice and thin, so if I did need to come in with a 3rd coat it wouldn't end up a bulky nail. I'm being really careful when I'm applying the gel polish around the cuticle area because you don't want to touch the cuticle with the colour, and I'm just allowing the brush to fan out and do a lot of the work for me. But if you do struggle to get a neat cuticle line, you can also come in with a fine nail art brush and just touch up to get that nice neat line. And then once I've finished applying the 2nd coat of colour, I'll pop these into cure for 30 seconds as well. And I was really excited to do this set. I had a picture in mind of some vintage love letter inspired nails, but then I went away a little bit from what I had in mind. I was planning a bit of a brown marble or maybe a watercolour marble, but I ended up going for a more plain base, and I was still quite impressed with how they turned out. But I definitely want to play around and do some more love letter style nails because I do quite like how they look. Now, because I'm going to be doing a lot of stamping and water decals on top of these nails, I opted to remove the tacky layer. They don't have too much of a tacky layer, to be honest, but I'm just cleansing over them with a lint-free pad and some alcohol. And on the 2 middle nails we're going to be doing some stamping, so I'm going to come in and do that first of all. And I'm using this really pretty Valentine's plate from Born Pretty. So this is their L055 plate. I will try and find a link for it and leave it in the description box below. And I do also have a discount code for Born Pretty, so I'll pop that below as well. I'm stamping with my clear jelly stamper, and I'm using the Infire Gold polish, which is also from Born Pretty. And I've left the stamping in real time so that it shows how I work, how quickly I work, and just shows all the steps a little bit easier. So I hope you enjoy that. I've also got my sponge there with some alcohol. I picked up that tip from Talia's Nail Towels for wiping your scraper onto, and it really does help. So onto the stamping. I've already cleaned my stamping plate with some acetone, applied my polish, scraped, and as you can see it picked up perfectly. I just roll my clear jelly stamper over the image. I don't press down. It's a really gentle roll and flick of the wrist. Then I'm just using a lint roller to clean up any of the excess image that I don't want. And then I'm going to simply stamp straight down using a firm pressure, but also being quite gentle. You don't want to press down too hard, but you do want to make sure that you're making good contact with the nail. Now I just opted for some of these, it's just the alphabet lettering. I wanted that scroll effect, and I didn't really have a plate that had anything like that, so I just worked with what I had here. I'm then going to come in and do exactly the same on the ring finger. So I'm making sure to give my stamping plate a good clean with that acetone. You want to make sure you remove any of the previous stamping polish, otherwise it will ruin the next image. And then once again I apply a generous amount of stamping polish, scrape across, and then roll my stamper over. I roll quite lightly. I'm not applying too much pressure, to be honest, and I find that the combination of the clear jelly stamper and the Born Pretty stamping polish, Works perfectly every time. I rarely struggle with stamping now, if I'm honest. And if you are looking for a stamper, I highly recommend the clear jelly one. I have also used the Born Pretty Jelly Stamper as well, and I highly recommend that one as well. That was easy to work with too. My preferred stampers are always these clear jelly style ones though. I just find they are a lot easier when it comes to seeing where you're placing your image. Now that we've finished the stamping, I'm going to seal this in before applying my water decal. So I'm just going to come in with a thin coat of the Kiki London top coat. This is the one that has a tacky layer, and I personally prefer this one over stamping because I don't seem to get any pitting or separating from it. So I'm just going to apply a thin layer of that and then pop it in my LED lamp to cure. And then these are the beautiful water decals that I'm going to be using. I was sent these from Miss Lucy. She's a water decal company, and she sent me a couple of packs to try out and do some designs on and give her a little review and feedback. So in with the pack, she sent a card that explains exactly how to use the decals. Very similar to using any other decals I've used, to be honest. They were nice and easy to work with. So first up, I'm just going to take these out so you can have a bit of a better look at them, because when they're in the pack, they tend to, the shiny pack reflects the light. So you can see them a little bit better here. And these ones are their Festive Floral. So we've got some red and white flowers on there. And I'm going to use a couple of these on all 4 of the nails. So to begin with, I wasn't 100% sure which ones I wanted to use. So I'm just picking them out and cutting them out as I go along, basically. But I started off with the 4 that I'm going to use on the middle and the ring finger. So I'm going to use some down at the cuticle area and some at the top, just so that these roses overlap that stamping design and it just gives off that layered effect. And I'm cutting these out as close to the image as possible. You don't want to have too much of the excess clear part of the image, so just cut around your image as close as you can. And then I'm going to pop them in the water. She recommends that you pop them in the water for around 30 seconds. I probably ended up leaving one of mine in a little bit longer whilst I was working on the first nail, and it didn't do any harm or anything like that. And I'm just using room temperature water here as well. So I'm just going to make sure I've got the 4 ready for the first 2 nails. I've left them in for that 30 seconds and then they slide off the backing paper nice and easily. As soon as I picked it up, it started sliding off. And then I'm going to place this one down at the cuticle area. Just using some tweezers first of all to hold it and remove it from the backing paper and placing it down on the nail. And then I'm going to come in once I have got both of them down in place with my silicone tool. And I just use the silicone tool just to help make sure they're lying nice and flat. It also helps get out any bubbles. But I just like to place it down roughly where I want it to begin with, and then it lets some of that excess water dry out as well. And then I'll just come in and nudge them around into place. I personally have lately started to use a silicone tool with the water decals rather than my finger, and I find it a lot easier. And then I'm going to come in with the next 2 water decals and we're placing these down at that tip end, and again I want them to overlap the stamping slightly. So I'm placing it down and the image is going to be slightly bigger than the area I'm popping it onto. So I'm just positioning it so I get most of the floral image. And then that tiny little bit of excess that I've got, I'm just going to trim off using my stalk scissors. You want to make sure that you get rid of any overhanging. If you don't do it with your scissors, you can also do it with some acetone or even your nail file. The decals will melt away really easily with acetone, so you can just come around with a cotton bud and get rid of any excess that way too. You get a little bit of playtime with most water decals, to be honest. You are able to move them around and position them exactly where you want them to be before they will dry in place. So just take your time to make sure that you're happy with how they are lined up. And then that's those 2 nails finished. So we're going to move on to work on the pointer finger. Now on the pointer finger, I found this really pretty gold frame embellishment. So I'm just popping it down over my water decals to find one that fits inside the frame. And then I'm going to cut out that image to use on the nail so that we can frame the florals. I just thought it'd look really pretty. Gives off that vintage vibe as well with the gold against the nude and the red. I absolutely loved these, by the way. They were definitely a set that I would wear on myself. I thought they turned out really, really pretty. But of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So I've soaked that one in the water and I'm just popping it down on the pointer finger. As you can see on the little finger, I did also place one down on the little finger as well, but I forgot to hit play on my camera, so I missed out showing you guys that. But it's exactly the same as how I've applied all of the others, so you've not really missed anything. Now this is a slightly larger image and it's going over that apex part of the nail where the nail's got a curve. So I want to make sure that it's made really good contact with the nail and that there's no creases or bubbles. So that's why I just pressed on it using a lint-free pad. Now the water decals say that they need 2 coats of top coat to seal them in. This is what I would normally do on any of my nail art anyway. Stamping, water decals, foils, I always like to double top coat. So I'm coming in here with the Kiki London rubber top coat and I'm applying the first coat of top coat to the middle finger we're beginning with. I began with the middle finger because I'd already applied the decals first there, so it means that these ones have a little bit longer to dry. I'm just making sure that that top coat floats over those water decals. I had a little bubble in the one at the tip, so that was what I was sorting out. And then I'm just going to apply this layer of top coat to all 4 of the nails and then I will pop them in to cure before we move on to the next step. And whilst you're watching that, I just thought I would say I was sent these to review from Miss Lucy. However, all the thoughts and opinions in all of my videos are my own. So if I tell you I love something, it's because I genuinely do love it. And if I don't, then I don't usually go on to recommend it, to be honest. I don't like to be too negative about somebody's company, or because maybe it just didn't work for me. But I won't recommend something if I don't genuinely love it. And I was genuinely really pleased with these water decals. They applied effortlessly. There was no stickiness from them. I didn't find any, sometimes with water decals, the colour can run. I didn't find any of that. They applied absolutely beautifully. And I'm really looking forward to using some of them on my own nails. So once I'd finished applying that top coat, I'd popped it into cure for 60 seconds. I'm then going to come in and apply that gold frame. So I'm coming in with some jewellery gel first of all and just really blending it out so that there's no lumps or bumps. And then I'm going to come over the top of this with my top coat. So I'm not curing that jewellery gel. I'm going to leave it wet and then come over the top with my top coat. And then that will be the second layer of top coat for this nail. So I won't have to do this further along. And then that water decal has had the 2 coats that's recommended. I also find going over the jewellery gel with the top coat really helps smooth it out, and I find this probably is my preferred way whenever I am working with a jewellery gel. You don't necessarily have to top coat over the top of it. You can just use the jewellery gel, set your crystals or embellishments in place, cure it and then top coat. So there is a few different ways to work with your jewellery gel. This is usually just my preferred method. So whilst all of the top coat and jewellery gel is still wet, I'm going to place down my little embellishment and move it around, and it fitted absolutely perfectly over this water decal. Once I am happy with how it's placed, I'm going to pop that into cure so that it doesn't move around. And I'm just going to cure this for 60 seconds. So I then also wanted to add some crystals on to the little finger. So I'm applying that jewellery gel exactly the same as when I applied the embellishment. So I'm just making sure to really rub it in so that there's no lumpy bumpiness, because the jewellery gel is quite thick. If I'm working with pointed back crystals, I won't rub it in so much. I'll leave it a bit of a thicker layer so that those pointed backs can stick in there. But because I'm just using quite small flat backs, this way just works a lot easier. And then I'm just applying those crystals around the cuticle line, nice and simple, nothing too fancy. I wanted the main focus of the set to be the middle 2 nails, so I didn't want to draw too much attention with crystals on the little finger, but I just wanted to add a few because I felt as though the red from these crystals really matched the water decals and just added a little bit of extra sparkle. And then once I'm happy with how they're all applied, I will pop them into cure for 60 seconds. And one of the things I love about the jewellery gel, like there, I just added a larger crystal and I didn't feel as though it flowed with what I was doing. So because they're not set in place, because we're just using a jewellery gel, you're able to easily remove them from the nail, where when you're using glue, you don't always get that option to remove it because it sets quite quickly. We are coming towards the end of the video, so I just really quickly wanted to check in with you all and see how you are all doing. I hope you're all coping okay. What have you all been up to? I'm really loving them at the moment, getting into all of the Valentine's nails. I'm loving watching them on YouTube and seeing Instagram flooded with them as well. So I hope you are all enjoying them too. I did pop the crystal nail in to cure before moving on to top coating these two nails. So I'm just coming over with that second layer of top coat on these, and then that is the design finished. I really hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, then please give the video a thumbs up or let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I have, as always, left all of the products that I use listed in the description box, so do check that out. I hopefully will see you all again in my next video. Take care, lots of love. Once again, thanks for watching. Bye bye.